Please, I said, standing beside the dining table with my school blazer still on. Don't make me go back into that room with him. My father didn't even look up. He kept cutting his steak like I had asked to skip a piano lesson, not like I had just told him my teacher locked the classroom door, took my phone, and stood too close while calling it mentorship. He's not going anywhere, Dad said. My fork slipped from my hand and hit the floor. Mom flinched at the sound, but not at what he said. That was when I looked at her, because some part of me still believed mothers were supposed to move when their daughters sounded afraid. She folded her napkin in her lap. We're not ruining his life over this, she said. Over this. Like my fear was a stain on the tablecloth. Like Mr. Vale's reputation was more fragile than I was. I stared at both of them, waiting for one of them to take it back. Neither did. Mr. Adrian Vale had been my literature teacher for 2 years and my debate coach for 1. At Whitmore Academy, he was the kind of man adults smiled at before he even spoke. He wrote college recommendations. He chose who competed. He decided which scholarship students were worth continued investment. And I was a scholarship student. Dad leaned back in his chair. Viola, you need to understand what he's done for you. What he's done. My voice cracked. He keeps me after school when everyone else leaves. He takes my phone and says I need to focus. He told me no one would believe me if I tried to make him look bad. Mom's eyes flicked toward Dad, fast and sharp. I saw it. That tiny glance. That silent warning. Dad set down his knife. You're emotional. No, I said. I'm scared. Mom stood and started clearing plates that still had food on them. Powerful people are often misunderstood. You're young. You don't know how quickly an accusation can destroy someone. I almost laughed, but it came out like a breath. Destroy him. I whispered. What about me? Dad's phone lit up on the table. I looked before he could turn it over. Adrian Vale. Is she under control? The room changed. The chandelier hummed above us. Mom stopped moving. Dad's hand covered the phone, but too late. You've been talking to him, I said. Dad's jaw tightened. This conversation is over. No, I said, and for the first time that night, my hands stopped shaking. It's not. Mom's face went pale. Viola. I looked at my father, then at my mother. Then I said the sentence that made the whole room go silent. I recorded what he said to me after class. Dad's fork froze halfway above his plate. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. Viola, what did you do? Before we continue, drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you enjoy revenge stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. I locked my bedroom door before my father reached the stairs. The handle twisted once. Viola, Dad said from the hallway. Open the door. I backed away from it, clutching my phone against my chest. Downstairs, Mom's voice cut through the house. Richard, don't scare her. I'm not scaring her, he snapped. She's about to scare herself. I stood in the middle of my room, still in my uniform, with my shoes on and my backpack half open on the floor. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. For a second, I thought about deleting everything, pretending I had lied, apologizing until they stopped looking at me like I had ruined dinner. Then my phone buzzed in my hand. One new notification. Dad, open the door. I ignored it and opened the recording instead. Mr. Vale's voice filled the room, low and smooth. Private mentorship is a privilege, Viola. Girls who understand that go far. Girls who make trouble disappear from schools like this. I swallowed so hard it hurt. On the recording, I could hear my own voice, smaller than I remembered. I just want to go home. Then him again. Your scholarship review is next month. Your father knows how important this is. Don't make everyone regret helping you. I paused it. My room looked the same as it always did. White desk. Stacked notebooks. Debate trophies from competitions Mr. Vale had chosen me for. A framed certificate from the essay contest that had started all of it. Back then, when he first read my story in front of the class, I thought he had saved me. Viola Hart, he'd said, smiling as everyone turned to stare, is the only student in this room who knows what a sentence is supposed to do. I had gone home glowing. After that, he offered extra coaching. At first, the door stayed open. Then he said the hallway was distracting. Then he changed the meetings to after school. Then he told me Maya was jealous of me, that other students would drag me down, that talent needed protection from ordinary people. The worst part was how slowly he made it feel normal. A knock came at the door. "Viola," Mom said softly. "It's me." I didn't answer. "I'm not angry." That was a lie. I could hear anger under every careful word. The doorknob turned again. "Open it, sweetheart." I wiped my face and walked over. "Are you going to report him?" Silence. I unlocked the door. Mom stepped inside without waiting to be invited. Her eyes went straight to my phone. "Give it to me." "No." Her mouth tightened. "Viola, you are confused. I understand you feel uncomfortable, but Mr. Vale has dedicated his life to students. A recording taken out of context could destroy a good man." "He texted Dad," I said. "He asked if I was under control." Mom blinked. "Only once." Then she reached for calm like it was a coat she could put back on. "Your father contacted him to understand the situation. He contacted him before asking me what happened." Mom took one step closer. "Because you have been emotional lately. Even Mr. Vale told me he was worried about you." My stomach turned. That sentence unlocked something. The parent-teacher conference 2 months ago. Mr. Vale leaning across the table, hands folded, voice gentle. "Viola is gifted," he had told Mom. "But fragile. She sometimes interprets attention as pressure. I'd hate to see her sabotage herself." At the time, Mom had nodded like he was helping her understand me. Now I understood he had been preparing her. I tightened my grip on the phone. Mom lowered her voice. "Listen to me carefully. If you make this public, you could lose Whitmore. You could lose your scholarship. Your friends will be questioned. People will say you wanted attention. Is that what you want?" "What I want," I said, "is for you to protect me." Her face changed then. Not softened. Closed. "Give me the phone." I looked down at the screen. My thumb moved before I fully thought it through. I opened my old middle school email account, attached the recording, and sent it to myself while pretending to unlock the phone. Mom held out her hand. "Now, Viola." The email sent. I placed the phone in her palm. For half a second, she looked relieved. Then she walked out and pulled the door shut behind her. I stood there listening. Her footsteps went down the stairs. A cabinet opened. Dad muttered something I couldn't hear. Then his voice came clearly through the floor. "Call Adrian. Tell him we have a problem." The next morning, Mr. Vale was standing on the auditorium stage under a gold banner that read, "Excellence in Student Mentorship." For a second, I couldn't move. Students were filing past me into rows. Teachers were clapping. The chamber orchestra was tuning near the side exit. Everything looked polished and expensive, the way Whitmore Academy always looked when it wanted parents to remember why they paid so much. And there he was. Mr. Vale in a navy suit, smiling like the kind of man girls should be grateful to know. "Viola," Mom whispered behind me. "Keep walking." I turned. Both of my parents were there. Dad wore his gray business suit, the one he saved for investor lunches. Mom had pearls on. They weren't dropping me off. They were guests. "You're staying?" I asked. Dad's hand touched my shoulder, firm enough to guide me forward. "Mr. Vale asked us to attend." My skin went cold. "From the stage, Mr. Vale's eyes found mine. He smiled. Not wide. Not obvious. Just enough for me to understand that he knew exactly where my phone was, who had taken it, and how alone he expected me to feel. We sat in the third row. The principal stepped up to the microphone and said, "Today, we honor a member of our faculty whose devotion to student growth has changed lives." Everyone clapped. I kept my hands in my lap. Mr. Vale bowed his head modestly. The perfect teacher. The trusted mentor. The man who made parents feel lucky while girls learned where the exits were. Then the principal announced his name, and the applause grew louder. Mr. Vale accepted the glass award and placed one hand over his heart. "Thank you," he said. "At Whitmore, mentorship is not simply academic. It is personal. It requires trust." My throat tightened. He continued, and sometimes, the students with the brightest futures are the ones who need the strongest guidance. His eyes came back to me. I'd like to recognize one of those students today. Viola Hart. My brightest student. Every head turned. I heard a few whispers. Phones lifted. Someone behind me said, "That's her." I stayed seated. Mom leaned toward me, smiling with her teeth. "Stand up." "I don't want to." Dad didn't look at me when he said, "Do not embarrass us." The applause thinned into awkward silence. So I stood. My knees felt loose. I could see Maya 3 rows back, staring at me with a crease between her eyebrows. She knew something was wrong. She had known for weeks, but every time she asked, I told her I was tired. Mr. Vale lifted his award slightly toward me. "Viola represents what happens when talent is nurtured properly," he said. Properly. My hands curled into fists at my sides. Then Dad stood. For one wild second, I thought he was going to stop it. I thought maybe seeing me exposed in front of everyone had finally made him understand. Instead, he turned toward the audience. "As Viola's father, I just want to say how grateful our family is," he said, his voice carrying easily through the room. "Mr. Vale has protected our daughter from pressures she didn't always understand. Whitmore is fortunate to have a man willing to guide talented students through their own doubts." Protected. Doubts. He had chosen every word like a wall and built it around me in public. The applause returned, louder this time, because adults loved nothing more than a neat story with a grateful parent and a respected man at the center of it. I sat down slowly. Maya didn't clap. After the ceremony, I moved toward the side hallway before my parents could catch me. I needed air. I needed one corner of the school where nobody was praising him. Then I heard the principal's voice near the open office door. "Richard, I appreciate your cooperation," she said quietly. "Especially after you handled last year's misunderstanding so discreetly." I froze. Dad answered, too low for me to hear. "Last year. Misunderstanding. Discreetly." I stepped back and my shoulder hit someone. Maya grabbed my arm. "Viola, what is going on?" I looked at her face and the lie I had prepared disappeared. "He did it to someone before me," I whispered. Maya's expression changed instantly. "Mr. Vale?" I nodded. She pulled me farther into the hallway, away from the office. "My cousin Lena went here last year. She left before finals. Everyone said she had a breakdown after spreading rumors about him." My mouth went dry. "Can you call her?" "I can try," Maya said. "But Viola, why didn't you tell me?" Before I could answer, the hallway went quiet. Mr. Vale was standing near the trophy case. He walked toward us slowly, like he owned every inch of the floor between us. "Viola," he said warmly, "your parents gave permission for an emergency coaching session after school." Maya's grip tightened around my wrist. "No," I said. His smile stayed in place. "This is not optional. I'm not going anywhere alone with you." A couple of students near the lockers turned their heads. For the first time, I had said it where other people could hear. Mr. Vale glanced at Maya, then back at me. His voice softened into something almost kind. "Then I'll have to explain to the scholarship board why you've become unstable." By lunch, I was called to the counselor's office. Not asked. Called. My name came over the classroom speaker while everyone was still unpacking sandwiches and pretending not to look at me. "Viola Hart, please report to student support immediately." Mr. Vale's threat had taken less than 2 hours to become official. Maya looked up from beside me. "Don't go alone." "I don't think I have a choice." "Yes, you do." She slid her phone halfway across the desk, screen tilted away from the room. "I texted Lena." She answered. My breath caught. Maya's thumb moved quickly. "She's looking for emails. Old ones." She said she knew this would happen again. Before I could respond, my English teacher appeared in the doorway. "Viola," she said carefully. "They're waiting." They. That word followed me down the hall like footsteps. The counselor's office was at the end of the administrative wing, behind frosted glass and framed posters about student wellness. When I opened the door, every chair was already taken. Mom sat beside Dad. Mr. Vale sat across from them, one ankle over the other, hands folded, face arranged into concern. The principal stood near the window. The school counselor, Ms. Keene, looked at me with a clipboard in her lap, like she had already been given the ending of the story and just needed my signature. "Viola," she said, "please sit down." I stayed near the door. "Why are my parents here?" Dad's eyes narrowed. "Sit." Mom pressed her fingers together in her lap. She wouldn't look directly at me. The principal cleared her throat. "We've received several concerns about your recent behavior." "My behavior?" Mr. Vale leaned forward slightly. "No one is angry with you, Viola." I looked at him. "Don't talk to me like that." Miss Keene made a note on her clipboard. That small scratch of pen against paper made my stomach drop. The principal said, "You've refused a scheduled mentoring session, disrupted an assembly, and made remarks in the hallway that could be damaging to a faculty member's reputation." I said I didn't want to be alone with him. Mr. Vale lowered his eyes, as if the sentence hurt him. Mom finally spoke. "Honey, this is what we talked about. You've been under pressure." There it was again. The script. Dad added, "You're fragile right now." Ms. Keene nodded. Mr. Vale expressed concern that you may have developed an unhealthy fixation on his mentorship. My face went still. Fragile. Confused. Pressure. Fixation. They weren't reacting to what I said. They had prepared words to bury it before I entered the room. I looked at the counselor. "Is this meeting being documented?" She blinked. "Yes, notes are being taken." "Good," I said. "Then write this down." I told my parents I was afraid to be alone with Mr. Vale. I told them he took my phone during private sessions. I told them he threatened my scholarship. They still arranged for him to be alone with me. The room tightened. Dad leaned forward. "Viola." "Write it down," I said, looking only at Miss Keene. Her pen hovered above the paper. The principal's voice sharpened. "This is a serious accusation." "I know." Mr. Vale stood halfway. "Perhaps I should speak with Viola privately in the hallway. She's clearly overwhelmed." "No," I said. His eyes flicked, just for a second, toward my father. Then my phone buzzed in my blazer pocket. Everyone heard it. Dad's gaze dropped to the pocket. I pulled it out before he could speak. "Maya." "Lena found them. Emails from Vale. And one from your dad." My fingers went cold. Another message came through. "Maya, he offered her family money to avoid unnecessary damage to everyone involved." For a moment, I couldn't hear anything. Not the air conditioner. Not the counselor shifting in her chair. Not my father saying my name. I saw last year's assembly. Last year's rumor. Last year's girl leaving before finals while everyone whispered that she had made it up. My father hadn't failed to believe me. He had already chosen not to believe someone else. Dad stood. "Give me the phone." I stepped back. He came around the chair. "Richard," Mom whispered, but she didn't stop him. I opened the file Maya had sent. Lena's forwarded email filled the screen. "Richard Hart, we're prepared to help with transition costs, provided this matter does not create unnecessary damage to everyone involved." Unnecessary damage. That was what they called a girl leaving school. Damage. Not to her. To everyone else. I forwarded the screenshots to Maya. Then I attached the recording I had sent myself the night before. My thumb shook over the message box. "Send it if they take my phone." I hit send. Mr. Vale's voice cut through the room. "Viola, let's step outside. Just you and me. We can calm this down." I looked at him, really looked at him, while my phone was still warm in my hand. "No," I said. "I will not be alone with you again." The counselor's pen finally touched the paper. Dad moved faster than I expected. He reached across the small table and snatched the phone from my hand. The room went completely still. His fingers closed around it. "You're done talking." I looked at my father's hand wrapped around my phone. For the first time in 2 days, I didn't reach for it. Dad stared at me like he expected panic. Like he thought the phone was my voice, and without it, I would shrink back into the quiet girl everyone preferred. But the message was already gone. So I said, "It already sent." Nobody moved. Not Dad. Not Mom. Not Mr. Vale. The only sound in the counselor's office was Ms. Keene's pen rolling off her clipboard and tapping against the floor. Dad's face changed first. His anger didn't disappear. It sharpened into fear. "What did you send?" he asked. I looked past him to Mr. Vale. His calm expression held for 1 second. Then his eyes shifted toward the door. That was when the first phone buzzed. Ms. Keene looked down at her desk. Then the principal's phone buzzed. Then Mom's. Then Dad's. A second later, the hallway outside the office erupted with muffled voices. The principal grabbed her phone and unlocked it. Her face drained as she scrolled. "What is this?" she whispered. Dad shoved my phone into his jacket pocket and pulled out his own. His thumb moved fast, but whatever he saw made him stop. Mom covered her mouth. Mr. Vale stood up fully. "This is a coordinated attempt to defame me." The principal didn't answer him. Through the glass wall, students were gathering in the hall. Teachers tried to move them along, but more phones were coming out. A girl near the water fountain looked directly through the frosted glass and pointed. Ms. Keene bent down, picked up her pen, and stared at the screen on her desk. Then Mr. Vale's voice played from someone's phone outside. "Girls who make trouble disappear from schools like this." The words moved through the hall like a match dropped into dry paper. The principal snapped, "Turn that off." But nobody did. Another voice came from the hallway. "Is that Mr. Vale?" Then another. "There are emails." Maya had sent everything. The recording. Lena's messages. The email from my father offering money to keep last year's complaint quiet. She had sent them to the student newspaper, the school board, parents, a local reporter whose daughter was in the junior class. Anyone who could make sure the story didn't vanish into an office drawer. Mr. Vale stepped toward the principal. "You need to contain this." The principal looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't look impressed. She looked trapped. Dad turned on me. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I looked at the phone still buzzing in his hand. "Yes," I said. "I made sure you couldn't do it again." Mom flinched. "Viola," she whispered. "Please." I turned to her. That one word, please, sounded so different coming from her now. Last night, I had begged her. I had stood in our dining room with my hands shaking and asked her to protect me. She had looked back at me and decided Mr. Vale's life was the one worth saving. Now she wanted mercy from the daughter she had left alone. "No," I said. Her eyes filled, but I stepped away before she could touch me. Ms. Keene stood slowly. "I need everyone to remain here." The principal's voice rose. "This meeting is over. No one is discussing this with students." "It's already with the board," Ms. Keene said, her voice uneven but clear. "And if these materials are authentic, we are past internal handling." Mr. Vale turned toward the door. Dad said, "Adrian, don't." The name landed heavily. Adrian. Not Mr. Vale. Not Viola's teacher. Adrian. The principal heard it too. So did Ms. Keene. And I saw the hidden shape of everything finally become visible. Mr. Vale had not chosen me by accident. He had chosen girls like me because we were easier to isolate. Scholarship students. Quiet students. Girls who needed recommendations, placements, and adults to believe we belonged at Whitmore Academy. Lena had been first. Or at least the first one brave enough to complain. She had told the truth the year before, and the school called it a misunderstanding. Mr. Vale called her unstable. My father helped make her disappear from the academy without a hearing because Mr. Vale had introduced him to donors who later invested in his company. Mom had known enough. Maybe not every detail. Maybe not every word. But she knew there had been another girl. She knew there had been money. She knew why Dad's phone lit up with Mr. Vale's message before either of them asked me what happened. They had not been confused. They had been protecting the deal. The repeated words finally made sense. Fragile. Emotional. Unstable. Confused. They weren't opinions. They were tools. Labels built in advance so that when I spoke, adults would hear illness instead of warning. The emergency meeting was never meant to help me. It was meant to document me as the problem. A teacher appeared at the office door, breathless. "Parents are coming in from the parking lot," she said. "They've seen the posts. There are reporters calling the front desk." Mr. Vale's mask cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. His jaw tightened. His hand gripped the back of the chair until his knuckles paled. The man who always knew exactly what to say had no room left to speak. Outside, someone said, "Police are here." Mom began to cry then, but it was quiet, controlled, almost embarrassed. Dad kept refreshing his phone as if the screen might offer him a way back to 10 minutes earlier. It didn't. 2 officers arrived before the final bell. They did not rush. They asked for names. They asked who had access to the emails. They asked me if I was safe going home. I looked at my parents. Then I said no. Mom made a small sound. Dad stared at me like I had slapped him. An officer stepped between us. Mr. Vale was escorted out through the side entrance, but everyone knew. Students watched from classroom windows. Parents stood near the front steps. Teachers whispered in clusters, no longer sure which side of silence they had been standing on. For the first time since I had met him, Mr. Vale did not control the room. After that, the academy tried to call it an investigation. Everyone else called it what it was. Lena came forward. Then 2 former students. Then another girl who had never filed anything because she saw what happened to Lena and learned the lesson Whitmore wanted her to learn. But this time, the lesson changed. Mr. Vale was arrested and later charged after the recordings, emails, witness statements, and school records were turned over. The principal resigned before the semester ended. The academy lost donors. Families filed lawsuits. The award with his name on it disappeared from the glass case by the auditorium. My father's business unraveled next. The investors he had worked so hard to impress didn't want their names beside his. Contracts paused. Meetings were canceled. People who used to laugh too loudly at his dinner parties stopped answering his calls. Mom was removed from 2 charity boards in the same week. The women who once kissed her cheek at fundraisers began crossing rooms to avoid her. Our house became quiet after that. Not peaceful. Empty. The kind of quiet that comes after everyone learns what you are willing to ignore. My parents tried to talk to me. At first, Dad demanded it. Then he negotiated. Then he sent messages through relatives about stress, confusion, legal pressure, and how families should not destroy each other. Mom wrote letters. She said she had been afraid. She said she thought she was protecting my future. She said she wished she had listened sooner. I kept the letters in a box without opening most of them. Not because they still had power over me, but because they reminded me of something I never wanted to forget. Silence is also a choice. I transferred out of Whitmore before the next semester. My new school didn't have marble floors or donor plaques or teachers who were treated like royalty. Nobody knew my father's name. Nobody introduced me as gifted before I had a chance to breathe. At first, I sat near the back of every classroom. Then, slowly, I stopped checking the door every time an adult spoke. Maya stayed my friend. Lena became the first person I called before giving my official statement. She didn't tell me to be brave. She just said, "Tell the truth once. Let the truth do the rest." So I did. I started writing again too. Not for Mr. Vale. Not for scholarships. Not to earn protection from adults who had already decided what my safety was worth. I wrote because my words were the first thing no one managed to take from me. And months later, when I passed my old school in the back seat of Maya's car, I didn't look away. The auditorium windows reflected the afternoon sun. Somewhere inside, there was a stage where they had once made me stand while everyone applauded the man I was afraid of. That memory still existed. But it no longer owned me. That night, the room went silent, but this time, Viola didn't.